So Rafal is a senior lecturer in digital culture at King's College London and an author of Media Generations in the Digital Age, Social Practice of Listening and Idols in Japan. And in his research, Rafal investigates the intersection of media, audience, text, and producer, focusing on the role played by media in people's everyday lives. Rafal has also published on the issues of voice and media framing of crisis, as well as a new form of televised manipulation. And he has served as an expert on media on migration of numerous European bodies and frequently discuss issues of media representation, democracy, and participation in international media. Rafal holds a PhD in media communications from the London School of Economics and Political Science, and MA in media and cultural studies from Tohoku University, and BA in sociology from Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Japan. So it's for you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you for having me at this wonderful conference, learning a lot. I missed much of the presentations yesterday, unfortunately, because of work, but I look forward to catching up later with the recordings. I'm trying to share my screen now. Okay, assuming you can see and hear me. So today I'll talk about the canon and fanon and multivocality in vocaloid cultures. Don't like that, it's not changing, so just give me a brief second. Oh, there we go. And this work stems from a few waves of ethnographic research in Japan, which started quite a while ago. And starting from the idea of researching music listening, music in Japan, and not from the perspective of the music itself, but rather from the perspective of audiences, of listeners, of contemporary Japanese generations. And I started with them. I interviewed a lot of people, asking them about what kind of music they listen to, why, how. I accompanied people to karaoke. I accompanied people to their everyday commute to and from work and school, and asked them what they were listening to while commuting. I attended small street performances and large-scale concerts, and I accompanied people at homes, talking to them and listening and seeing what kind of music they listen to, how they interact with each other, maybe watching music programs on TV, how they talk and raise their children through music. So there were a lot of entry points, but I was interested in the role of music in contemporary society. And here in the book that Chiara was kind to mention, I developed the concept of social practices of listening, practices that have to do with listening to music. They can be general or personal, but they don't need to be directly connected to music. There are many instances where there were very clearly music or sound influenced practices in people's everyday life that had to do with music in some capacity, but they were not directly about sort of listening or singing. And I'll give a few examples of that as I go. But specifically today, I wanted to talk about the virtual performers, including virtual idols, sort of music stemming from the vocaloid cultures, and so on and so on. And as I wanted to show here on the screen, there are different levels.
I'm sorry, your microphone is suddenly off.
Thank you. I wanted to show different levels and of these virtualities, and here we can see that they're very, very different, right? And other people have wrote about it. Shelley Brandt and Amane Kasai wrote about typology of vocaloid. Other people have wrote about sort of different phenomena that we can see here. We see here holographic representations of sort of real artists that are backstage singing. Some examples here of real artists coming to a new digital platforms, like for example Roblox concert here on the bottom left, Charlie XCX performing on Roblox. We have 2D characters performing live from anime characters such as Uta from One Piece, and so on. And we have the sort of the more what we think about when we think about virtual idols, so the vocaloid idols created originally from a voice bank. Or in fact, artists revived by AI technology, which was already a subject of one talk at this conference. So my point here is they're quite different, and they open different interpretative and participatory opportunities for the audience, and I'll get to that in a second. So when we talked about virtual music, virtual performance some time ago, maybe some years ago, I think we're quite optimistic in that it will open all sorts of audience experiences, which it did, right? As we can see from this cross-platform experiences, new digital platforms, new experiences, thanks to that. I think we had been hoping that it will lower barriers to music making, kind of through those through software like Vocaloid and many others available freely or commercially, which it kind of did, but kind of really didn't. And again, that would be my next point. And definitely open up ways of posthumous appearances and collaborations, right? So performances by artists that passed away, but also open a can of worms in terms of, sort of ownership, IPR challenges, and legal consequences. What the biggest promise here was, I think, especially when we were talking about East Asian music industries, particularly Japan, but also South Korea and other countries, is that the Vocaloid was sort of a beacon of hope for a while. And again, this is some time ago, as an alternative model of organizing a music industry, where in the traditional sort of office model, the gym show model, we would have management companies with full control of master recordings, right? Treating artists not that well, potentially blacklisting them if they want to leave, right? We have huge conglomerates controlling content and exposure, and the content focus on on young, not necessarily terribly talented, but doing their best artists. Now, Vocaloid, how we talked about it, represented a sort of a fresh change, because Vocaloid emerges through just buying a piece of software, right? Anybody can do it, a character license, thus blurring the line of who can produce music, who can make music, anyone with a piece of software and necessary skills. So this represents a sort of a bottom-up movement in the industry, which was not limited to the traditional gym show path. In reality, as we can probably think now, not that much have changed. Of course, there are various influences, but in terms of, even if we look at sort of what kind of Vocaloid idols are popular now, they're in terms of their demographics, how they're represented, maybe not that different as traditional idols. And definitely something that many people talked about, so virtual performers as sort of avoiding these type of things, like these type of instances. Well, this will not happen because the performance will be virtual. Of course, from the perspective of time, quite naive perhaps conversations, because obviously the dark aspects of the music industry did not change much. What did change was, so first, what didn't, I've mentioned the creative possibilities, like lowering the skills level necessary to produce music. So this did not change much. Among over 300 people I interviewed or surveyed in Japan over the last decade, only a handful had experience composing with the Vocaloid. And there were multiple reasons for this being the case: economic barriers, lack of clear educational pathways, especially outside of sort of major cities. Some participants did not have access to personal computers or tablets in the first place. Many struggles to justify the expense. Family histories factored in some circumstances. Parents considered Vocaloid music as a hobby, unlike the proper music education sort of via Yamaha schools and so on, which they often paid for, and so on and so on. So in terms of opening creative possibilities, not having witnesses that much. But of course, Vocaloid technology have been instrumental in other ways. So first of all, Vocaloid sound infiltrated the mainstream music market, not only directly via the direct sales concerts by Vocaloid performers, but also indirectly through creative work by musicians who started their career as Vocaloid producers before breaking into the mainstream, but also in terms of genres that were directly influenced by Vocaloid sounds. And it was a very helpful thing for the producers as well, who I talked to, producers at major labels, management offices. For them, the bottom-up distribution of Vocaloid songs created easy and inexpensive access to new talents, which then could be signed on to professional contracts. Now, thinking about how it's being received by audiences now, I want to spend a few minutes talking about the idea of co-creation and multivocality. Again, early on when I talked to audiences about why they listen to Vocaloid music rather than physical living artists, very often they would, and this is early on, this is where we still talk about AKB48, which we probably not talk about much, but very often I had conversations with audiences about, yeah, this is real, look at this. And fans of pop idol groups would say the same thing as the fans of Vocaloid audiences. Both would say that our object of fandom is more real, right? How, right? This is what emerged is different understanding of reality and authenticity. So for the fans of sort of physical performance, they dismissed Vocaloid performances in the end just a hologram. We cannot shake their hands, we cannot meet them, we know they don't exist really, only through a voice bank of a person that is not sort of directly connected to the persona of the Vocaloid. However, for fans of Vocaloid artists, virtual idols, for them, this was the real freedom of expression. As this person here says, they would say, look at the idols, look at the girl groups, all fake. All their content they produced is dictated to them by all their male producers. Their social media presence is heavily screened and controlled, right? So it's all fake, and actually buying a piece of Vocaloid software by somebody who really exists represents a much more authentic way in to music. And that's what the audiences valued among people I talked to. And so in my fieldwork, I was confronted with different versions of dialogue like this. This person says, but idols are forced to sing and dance. They don't have their own will. And this person says, nor does Hatsune Miku. Right? So people would contrast the modes of production, talking about which one is more authentic, which one is more real, the virtual idol or the non-virtual idol. Here, the person K parallels the lack of agency of idols and virtual idols, but does so clearly for laughs, right? It is the lack of human agency that is concerning here. And of course, there was also a generation argument here that the older audiences and younger audiences, both listening to virtual and non-virtual idols alike, and they were interpreting them in different ways. They were taking different things away from it, from the experience. Where for the older audiences, the proximity and sort of the link to artists was gained through familiarity, and this represented again a generation experience of sort of hierarchy, starting at the bottom, eventually getting picked up. It's fine that the producers write the songs. It's fine that their social media presence is screened, that there's little authenticity in the way that the younger people were talking about. It's more about giving your best. It's more about improving a little bit every week. For the younger audiences, the connection was done through authenticity, again, reflecting their generational experience, where working hard, the disappointment, right, through educational reforms, disappointed through where the society is now, working hard only good as a reward, and the reward is highly doubtful, right, in this sort of narrative of crisis that they were raised in. So here, virtual performance were seen as a protest against hierarchy, individual expression, authenticity, creativity, but representing distrust towards power structures. And here I'd like to introduce the concept of canon and fanon, which I found helpful in understanding the differences between different levels of virtual idols, and taking this from media audience studies and fandom studies, where canon means something slightly different than perhaps musical canon. So canon as elements of a text which are officially endorsed by its creators, the official narrative coming from the established creative process, right? So what is the official narrative of a story, of a character? What is their background as given by the authors? While fanon are elements agreed upon by fans within the community, sort of fan interpretations, fans' views of how the story goes, what the characters feel, how they are connected to each other. And obviously very different, right? When we have here established performer Charlie XCX that performs in a virtual setting, comes with a baggage, with a lot of canon, right? We know who the artist is through their official, from interviews, from YouTube, from concerts, right? That's a real person existing with a lot of information about them, versus what is available about a vocaloid performer officially. Well, not much, right? In fact, well, this is what it was in the original vocaloid information on the cover. It was limited to just this information, right? This is the whole canon in a way, endorsed through Krypton and Yamaha. It doesn't tell us much. So in a way, these types of vocaloid performers are mostly a clean slate, where the fanon discourses are much more important than canon discourses. This opens up possibilities for the audience to create their own narratives. And so let's see an example of that. I probably overused this example when I talked about this, but this is such a good example of a song by Hatsune Miku. And this seems like, I'll give you a second to read through the lyrics in case you're not familiar with the song Melt by Supercell, performed by Hatsune Miku, a very popular vocaloid song. And it's, it's about a girl, presumably sung by Hatsune Miku, getting ready for a date, right? There's nothing very aesthetically and musically a typical pop song. And it's a song that very often performed by fans. And here I am, not on this picture, but in this room, in the other corner of this room, listening to a high school crowd singing this song. And I'm asking them why this song, what is so special about the song? And they say, well, this song really tells us about the real Hatsune Miku. And I say, well, where? It's about just typical, not much content there. And they say, oh, no, you missed the most important part. It's not about Hatsune Miku getting ready for a date. She's not that kind of character. She's just being playful here. That's the person says. She tries to be more cutesy, but it fails. That's not who she is. It's just a ruse. She tries to be the person she is not, but in the end, the facade is down. And I said, how do you know that? That's not in the lyrics. And this person says, well, it is in the lyrics. And they point me to the last part of the song, which says, oops, sorry. I melt, I want to walk holding hands with you. Is it goodbye time already? Hug me now, or something. And this is the or something that the person means, which in Japanese is nantene. And this person says, see this nantene, see this or something at the very end. That shows you that she was just pretending to be cutesy. She was just pretending to try to be this kind of a typical girl, but in reality she's not, and in the end shows you that her real character, right? And they got that from these two words. And of course there are hundreds and thousands of posts in English, in Japanese, in French, in other languages on digital platforms where fans would discuss, debate, and sometimes get very violent and very passionate about defending what they think are the personalities or fanon and fanons of a given vocaloid performers. right? They get that through various things, through discussions, through the previous songs that the performer performed, through the sensibilities that they get from visual aesthetics, right? And they are mostly quite similar, but sometimes, as I say, things get ugly and people feel very emotionally invested in such discussions, as again opened up by the fact that the canonical information is very, very limited. And this was particularly the contrasted here is, again, the example with Charlie is the same example with the Enka singer Misora Hibari, right? Where when Misora Hibari, and again, I'll be very brief because I know this was the subject of another presentation, but when Misora Hibari performed posthumously after she passed away on NHK, well, that was problematic because there's so much canonical information available about Misora Hibari, right? The singer who passed away in 1989 had been famously conflicted with the NHK, right? And avoided appearances on the station in later years of her life. And so to have her appear on the NHK show was sort of a slap in the face to fans, some fans at least, who considered the feud canonical. On the other hand, sort of, we don't have the same problems with Hatsune Miku because the canonical information is so limited. And so my last point is sometimes the canonical and fanonical information is a creative obstacle for producers. They're very happy about it. So the big and small producers I talk to, they say, yeah, we love that. We love the virtual idol business because it's easy. We can say, we can decide what's canon or not. They don't complain when we control their social media. The virtual idols cannot surprise us with unexpected boyfriends or girlfriends or other scandals, right? So they're on board, they're happy, right? They're just not happy about the distribution system because it's not as easy as the traditional gym show. Independent creators, and that's my last point because I think I'm over time, is that for people who buy Vocaloids, this is a quote from an amateur producer who tries to write song for virtual idols using a Vocaloid, and as we can see here, sometimes sometimes there's an obstacle in the creativity, in that they think too much about, well, what is the correct song for the correct Vocaloid? Does the personality match what I think it is? What if I get it wrong, right? And so in the fanonical interpretation thwarting a little bit, or at least playfully, this person says, it ended up being troublesome. The more I thought about it, what if I get it wrong? I mean, there is no wrong, but then again, obviously there is. Maybe if I didn't know about those online discussions about personalities of Vocaloids, it would get easier. But without those discussions, I'd never get a Vocaloid copy in the first place. And I don't know. Right. Just to conclude, the lack of canon and the fanon discussions open up certain participatory opportunities for the audience in various ways in terms of economic and social potential, but perhaps close up some others. And it would be very interesting to look into this in detail, I think. I'll finish here. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to the discussion.